The ROCHOBBY Ridge Racer U4 versus the Traxxas UDR. I've had quite a few people ask me which 1/7 scale desert truck is better, so let's talk about it. Both of these vehicles have quite a bit in common. They're around the same size, weight, and speed. In addition, they both have 8 shocks with independent suspension up front, a solid axle in the rear, 4 to 6S capable electronics on the inside, and some cool details throughout. However, the UDR is at least $200 more than the Ridge Racer U4, so can you spend $200 less on the Ridge Racer and still get the same experience that you would with the UDR? Well, it's a little complicated. When it comes to durability, the Ridge Racer U4 actually does have the upper hand in my opinion. Besides the plastic wheel hexes, it has an all-metal drivetrain that's held up quite well for me. On top of that, the Ridge Racer comes with open front, center, and rear differentials that all have light silicone diff fluid within them. The UDR, on the other hand, has very thick center diff fluid along with a completely locked rear end, so that puts a lot more stress on other drivetrain components and causes you to burn through rear tires a lot quicker. This additional stress has a noticeable effect on the plastic wheel hexes along with the center drive shafts. Although the drivetrain is mostly metal in the UDR, it does have a plastic center front drive shaft that's known to break. That drive shaft is a little tricky to replace as well, so after breaking it the first time, I always just recommend upgrading it to metal to save you the hassle later on. The stock rear drive shaft is also known to occasionally break. Traxxas fortunately includes a spare drive shaft in the back of the truck, but regardless, the Ridge Racer's drivetrain design seems to result in fewer issues. As far as the rest of the vehicle goes, the Ridge Racer's sway bars aren't quite as realistic as the UDR's, but they are much more durable. The UDR tends to snap sway bars pretty often, but the Ridge Racer sway bars will usually just pop the links off. When it comes to bodies, the Ridge Racer's open wheel design does a great job of protecting the body from damage. The UDR, on the other hand, has a short course style body that cracks quite a bit around the fenders. It also has a pretty unreliable ESC. When the VXL 6S ESC works, it works great. However, these ESCs tend to just randomly die every once in a while for no reason. Traxxas doesn't replace them either, but they do technically offer a discount on a new ESC when you call them. The Ridge Racer has a much more reliable ESC from Hobbywing that will be better in the long run. Although the UDR is not quite as durable, I still feel that it is the most realistic handling vehicle in its class. The Ridge Racer feels like more of a mix between the UDR and an 8 scale buggy. Its suspension is still very good, but it's not quite as responsive as the UDR's. To be fair, the Ridge Racer is technically an Ultra 4 vehicle, so I'm not sure if the suspension is even meant to be as plush as a trophy truck. Part of this also might be due to the UDR having an additional spare tire in the rear, so there's a little more weight and back to make the suspension work. Another cool characteristic of the UDR is that it can break its tires loose and actually drift around on pavement. The Ridge Racer's open diffs unfortunately prevent it from drifting around on pavement. Instead, the vehicle tends to either hook up and completely roll over, or just diff out and spin the inside tires. In addition, a lot of the power tends to transfer to the front end when you punch the throttle, resulting in the pizza cutter effect. Because of this, the Ridge Racer reminds me a lot of the Losi Baja Ray with the way that it's set up. Both the UDR and Ridge Racer U4 tend to slightly nose over when you're jumping them, so you'll typically have to stay in the throttle. Both vehicles are also advertised to reach a top speed of 50 miles per hour, but when I strapped a GPS to them, the UDR hit a top speed of around 44 miles per hour, and the Ridge Racer was able to reach up to 48 miles per hour. Both vehicles do have a gyro built into the receiver that helps keep you driving straight, which is nice. The Ridge Racer's overall design makes it much easier to work on. The flip-up cage makes it super easy to access all of the electronics and main components without having to remove a bunch of screws like on the UDR. The only thing I'd say is a little easier to access on the UDR is the battery tray. Both vehicles kind of limit you when it comes to the size of your batteries, but the Ridge Racer battery tray design does offer a little more flexibility. Both vehicles are equipped with LED lights, but the lighting system on the UDR is more elaborate. You receive an additional light bar up front as well as one in the rear. You can adjust the brightness of these light bars, and the rear one even reacts to your braking inputs, which is really cool. So overall, if you're wanting the most realistic looking and performing desert truck possible, you should probably go with the Traxxas UDR. If you're not quite as concerned about realism and just want a truck that looks cool, is a little more durable, and handles kind of like an 8 scale buggy, you'll probably be better off with the ROCHOBBY Ridge Racer U4 from FMS Model. It's ultimately your decision though, both are great vehicles. Let me know your thoughts on both of these trucks down in the comments. Like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.